welcome to Free Cheese episode 521. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. The list continues with episode 521. And the brand new addition to the list, Shin-chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless 7-Day Journey. More on that as we continue, but in anticipation of this episode, I put together a little worksheet to celebrate our summer vacation now here, this first episode of September, as summer is officially behind us. For the listeners, you can check out thefreecheese.com and find the episode page for this episode, and you can play along at home with the PDF attachment. Mark, Matt, I would like to know, in the center of our worksheet, I placed a box to draw a picture of your favorite summer memory or something that you love. What did you draw?
So, I drew nothing. I always
hated nothing.
I hated drawing as a kid. And I wanted to reflect that on this worksheet properly.
If you could have drawn something, what would have been your favorite summer memory to have drawn? Or something that you love that you wanted to draw a picture of?
I don't know. Probably something related to stick figures. Multiple stick figures. One that said me, and others that had friends' names, and like a soccer ball, and some kind of horribly drawn net from a 2D perspective.
I love that. Mark, do you have a favorite summer memory or something that you love that you drew a picture of?
Sleeping.
Is this you in a
Just
bed?
Big
floor,
Z's?
Anywhere?
Probably. Okay, not probably. Definitely. Halfway off the bed. TV on. Maybe I probably fell asleep with the game console on or something like I usually do. So I didn't want to turn it off and start over somewhere. Save states weren't great back then.
Passwords.
Well, I went ahead and drew Swamp Thing because I've been reading Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and he's been on the brain lately. Mr. Holland.
That's pretty
as
hot.
you will. I try.
See, that's why I hated drawing. I would draw something in like an art class, and then I would look at the person next to me, which would always be someone like Mark or you who knew like way too well how to draw, and then I would be just fucking discouraged.
Yeah, but you do realize that, like, I look at this and I hate it, right? Like, I'm not happy with what I draw either.
It's better than the fucking 3 stick figures and a terrible looking soccer ball and a net, which would have went vertical line, slanted line, and some circles, not even attached, just circles to represent a net.
Fair enough.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
And that would be the fucking answer I would get from the kid sitting next to me. It'd be like, you know what? Fuck you. I didn't say that. No. To be fair, I was homeschooled through elementary school, so...
So you were just going in while being homeschooled to pick on the kids who were in their drawing better than you?
No, for some reason, the magnet school I went to decided GT art was necessary for my magnet.
Oh,
so
terrible.
I got put into that shit. And that was the discouraging aspect of my art career.
The full worksheet we're going to revisit throughout the episode, so listeners, if you want to play along with what we have put together, feel free to check that out and fill that out on your own. If you do fill it out, grab a screenshot and leave it in the comments of the podcast episode, or of course you can email us, podcast@thefreecheese.com. The game this week, to kick off September and bring summer officially to its end, Shin-chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless 7-Day Journey, developed by Millennium Kitchen with Neos and Star Factory, published by Neos, first released on Nintendo Switch July 15th, 2021 in Japan, with subsequent releases on PlayStation 4 and PC and it would eventually release worldwide. Back of the box, or the synopsis per the publisher, reads: Hiroshi has to go on a business trip to Kyushu, so now the entire Nohara family has decided to stay with a childhood friend of Misae's in Aso, Kumamoto. But when they arrive at Kumamoto Station on their way to Aso, they meet a strange man who offers them an even stranger camera, on the condition that they'll act as his witnesses. With his new camera in hand, Shinnosuke can enjoy his summer vacation in the beautiful Aso fields and mountains to the fullest. The scenery is even crawling with creatures that he would never find in Kasukabe. And there are townspeople to help and new friends to make. That said, don't these kids look an awful lot like the ones he knows from home? One cool summer night, Shinnosuke witnesses a giant creature outlined against the light of a full moon. Next to the creature is a strange man with a wide smile. It's the same weird man who gave him the camera at the station. And he calls himself the Professor Akuno. Following this encounter more and more, strange things start to happen around Aso. That's Shin-chan. Sorry, that is Shin-chan. Me and the Professor on summer vacation. The endless 7-day journey. So, to back up a little bit, my intent originally was to set up the premise of this here video game, but I think the back of the box kind of does that. The premise is that young Shin-chan is going on vacation with his family after his dad goes on a work trip. They meet a creepy guy who gives him a camera and says, enjoy your vacation. And then when they get there, all this weird stuff starts happening. I guess why was this selected for the list is the next question we typically ask. And I added this because it is developed by Millennium Kitchen, who is, it's Kazayabe's studio, who famously made the Boku no Natsuyasumi games, or colloquially, My Summer Vacation games, of which we've seen 0 released in English. There's an English patch for the first one that is out-ish, but at the time we selected the games for this list, that was not a thing, and this was the most accessible one of those. Plus it had Shin-chan, which I'd recognized from the Funimation dub of the game, or of the anime. So I'd always wanted to play the My Summer Vacation games. Have either of you heard of those? Are they familiar at all?
The name sounds familiar, and I may have accidentally Googled My Summer Vacation when I'm looking for my summer car.
Oh, yeah.
I feel we've definitely talked about these before, even before this season of the podcast or whatever. I remember seeing like old screenshots and gameplay stuff, and I always liked how it looked.
Yeah, that like fixed perspective and the way that it just had these beautiful like Japanese countryside scenes. The first one, at least, I think some other ones actually, but definitely, yeah, no, they were all published by PlayStation, first party in Japan. And they followed the story of a boy on summer vacation. They're all loosely, not necessarily like sequels in terms of the character, but it's all similar sort of gameplay and themes, etc. But you're always kind of going on a vacation. Usually it involves going to a different town and then spending a summer there. What I knew of the Boku no Natsuyasumi games is that they were fixed kind of events would happen, right? So like you had a finite period of time that you were on vacation. There's so many in-game days, not unlike a Pikmin, right? Where you only have so many days to complete these specific tasks. And you learn, unless you're playing like with a guide and you're doing exactly what the guide says at every second, you know exactly what to do. More often than not, you have to play it a couple of times with the understanding of like, talk to this person at this time, catch this bug at this time, do this at all these very specific things. Which we kind of learn during playing the Shin-chan iteration of the series. that is not a requirement. But that was kind of happenstance. I didn't pick this because I knew it was going to be a bit more approachable. I just picked it because it was approachable in the sense that it translated into English and it was available on platforms that we had access to. So accessible in that way. I guess separate from the Boku no Natsuyasumi series, what is either of your experience with Shin-chan as a property?
I'll go first because it's short and simple. Close to none. I feel like I've seen. Isn't there like a Vulgar, or is that the Funimation dub?
That's the Funimation one, yeah.
I've seen clips of that one. I chuckled, and that's about it. Everything was out of context. Not a whole episode. Nothing. Just those clips.
Yep. Mark, how about you?
A little more than clips, but yeah, that's my main exposure is that version, which is probably going to be how most people will be introduced to this franchise.
I think so. I think people in America, if we're familiar with Shin-chan, it's through the Funimation dub. Because they were from 2006 through 2009, they were airing through Funimation, but also like through Adult Swim. Rather dubbed by at Funimation for those few seasons and then airing on Adult Swim. So that was when I first saw it was Adult Swim, and then it was actually available on Funimation for 14 years. The rights lapsed somewhere between like 2016 and 2020. But you can no longer stream it. The only way to watch it now is to track down the DVDs, which you can buy used copies of for $200 a piece. So,
that ain't bad.
Congratulations. Sorry?
So that ain't bad.
No, not at all. It's a steal.
Yeah.
The tough part is that version probably won't, unless Funimation wants to do the work to make it happen, it probably won't come back out again.
I guess it's a little of a side, I don't know if I call it a tangent, but kind of like an appreciation. Like, I know like it can get iffy with some people when it comes to like subs versus dubs with anime and stuff. And I don't, even though like our version, like the English dub is a little more like on the nose with its jokes and everything. I feel like it's a little more subtle in its original format. Definitely not as crass here and there, but I kind of like. This is one of the times where I kind of appreciate that there's kind of two different versions. Just giving it another personality, and with some anime, I like if you can make it silly enough to where, I don't know, just for some reason for comedic effect, I feel like it works. Otherwise, it's not. It probably leaves a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths when they tend to mistranslate or aren't accurate with anything about it, even the story. But for some reason, for comedic effect, I always appreciate it.
No, it's definitely its own thing. The Funimation version was very I don't know they completely kind of departed from the original series. It's not just a translation of an adaptation of, it's like a full localization to really Americanize it. There's a lot of references to all sorts of American pop culture all throughout of the time. So, this is 2006 through 9 that they were doing it. So you ended up with a lot of George Bush references and things of that. Like, it's very much like that era of American culture. And yeah, if you go back to other English dubs of the show, they're far different from what
Yeah.
the Funimation one was.
It almost has like a like something you would find on YouTube that fans would just do over instead.
It feels very much like a project that you would have done in high school where you took a random kids cartoon and then made your own stupid dub over it.
Yeah.
It just so happens they did it on a professional level. They had such voice talent as Laura Bailey and Troy Baker. And they had like Evan Dorkin doing Punch Up on the writing, which it was wild. I think it was 26 episodes per season, 3 seasons. If you can find it, it is quite fun. And that was my first exposure. Again, I think it's a lot of Americans' first exposure, but Shin-chan is quite the popular manga and anime. The manga ran for 20 years, from 1990 until 2010, just shortly after its creator, Yoshito Usui, died. Not was died, but did die. But there's still anime happening. There's a movie. There have been many comic books. There's spin-off manga now. You know, obviously not the original creator, but there's all sorts of stuff there.
I think there's a movie coming out.
Yeah, that one, I can't remember if it actually came out or if it's still coming out. It just came out.
Okay,
this is the 3D one.
Yeah, the visuals look nice on it.
Yeah, it looked really good. It just came out a couple weeks back, or about a month ago.
Nice.
So, but yeah, but I remember when this got announced. So whenever Nintendo does its Nintendo Direct presentations, I always put the Japanese one up either side by side or I'll scrub through it after. And I remember during one of the Japanese Directs a few years ago, they announced this game. And I was stoked, but then immediately bummed because I knew it was yet another that we would never see here. So I was very surprised when it got released in America. And then, of course, this seemed like the perfect opportunity to play Shin-chan, me and the professor on summer vacation, the endless 7-day journey. And what I found, you know, I've not played through my summer vacation game, but playing through this one, you can 100%, if you're familiar with the My Summer Vacation games, even if you just watch a trailer of one or a few clips, and you play through the Shin-chan game, you very easily can see the influence. It is almost, and I'm not going to say 1-to-1, but it is very much that game. You arrive, so the back of the box sets it up, I think, very well. You arrive here in the town of Asso, and you don't realize it at the time, but as you play through, you learn that you have 7 days that run on a loop, and within those 7 days, you essentially just have to complete all of the in-game objectives, and if you reach the 7th day without having completed all in-game objectives, it just sort of rolls you back to the beginning, New Game Plus style. There's some story beats that like carry over, but just for Shin. Everybody else in the town acts like it's the first day that Shin's arrived in town. They act like it's the first time they're meeting. He kind of acts as the, you know, proxy for the player. Like, no, I've been here before. No, I know this. No, I know who you are. You did this, whatever. And all of your progress in terms of like which bugs you've caught, which fish you've caught, all of that stuff still carries over. And then as well as the in-game objectives. The trick to the game, I will put this up front for anyone listening who is a little bit lost, is just talk to everybody you can twice per day. Anybody who's on the map, talk to them during the daytime, talk to them during the evening, and you will progress the game quickly. If you do that and you work your way through just collecting things and whatever, that is the main way to advance the story, advance the game to the end. But by the end, you end up, there's a wedding. You slowly but surely unite all of the pairs of people within the town. in different ways. It seems like the only one who's left without love is Shin-chan, despite his hardest efforts to get a girlfriend. But I kind of want to run through the main mechanics of the game that you do run through, because there's a lot of basically mini games in a way. There's one major mini game, I would say, and the rest just the bug catching and the fishing. But I want to run through those a bit. But I also want to hear what was your first experience walking into ASO like, Mark?
I guess if I picked one word to describe it, I would say smooth. I was impressed with the visuals of this game. Like, I know it probably doesn't look like much when you go to look it up or see something, but the fact that like the cell shading is just it feels ageless compared with these like static backgrounds and everything. Like it does feel like you're just playing an anime. And I'm just never I guess for a while just been kind of like a little desensitized to that style. But then after playing this one specifically, I really got to appreciate just how well done everything has been captured, and even with just how smooth it is, just like the frame rate and honestly everything, just the animations feel fluid. Yeah, it's a really beautiful scenery that they put together here.
Yeah, I think that's something that stood out even from the first trailer you see. Is just like how much it looks like an episode of the show, and it just it gives you that immediate appearance. But then playing through it, actually being in control of Shin, moving through the world, like the way that the scenes move through, it all fits. It feels like you're just watching little vignettes. Matt, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the anime feel right away. I mean, probably the last time I felt something like that was Fighters. The little bit of the story mode I did there felt very cinematic. Yeah, it was straightforward. I mean, I kind of had I didn't know much about my summer vacation games, or I really, like I said, I know nothing about Shin-chan, so I didn't really know what to expect besides maybe like I knew it was an adventure game. And you quickly find out like it is very much like an adventure game. Yeah, I mean, it seemed pretty straightforward for what it was trying to do.
Well, actually, let's take a quick departure from Shin-chan talk. I want to talk about our little worksheet here. Let's look at. I've got a section here. Favorite things from summer. Obviously, Shin likes to run along and catch fish and grab bugs with his net. But Matt, what's your number one favorite thing from this summer?
Baseball.
Very good answer. Mark, what's your number one thing from this summer?
Oh, this summer.
Well, whatever. I just put favorite things from summer. I just figured.
Yeah, because I was trying to like tap into my childhood with this.
That's what I did too, but I'll change my answer slightly. It's fine.
Yeah, because summer now, as an adult, things aren't really as fantastic. It's just like, oh, you still gotta work, you still gotta do the grind and everything.
So you're saying sleeping in isn't your number one answer?
Yeah, see, and sleeping is such a boring answer, right? So I don't want to keep repeating that theme here. But had none of that be an issue, and I was still a kid, I would say bike riding is definitely one of my favorite things to do.
Oh yeah, that was a good time.
Just even if it was like going to familiar places or not, just trekking around without a worry, and unless your chain pops or you get a flat tire, then that sucks. But aside from that, I've always just going down a big hill, catching that breeze. Is one of my favorite things. Are we each? Should I just stop at one? Are we alternating, or should I just do all three?
No, go ahead, run through all three.
Okay. Swimming, obviously. Like, if like, I'm sure everyone had a friend or was that friend who had the pool that everybody would go to, hang out at, whatever.
Yeah, that person doesn't exist now in our 30s, unless y'all know one, because we need one.
Right. No, yeah, I really don't know. Like, I think my mom has like a tiny pool, but like I don't know how well like upkept that is, and I don't want to find out right now. No offense to her.
I swim in Middle River. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, now I'll just jump in Inner Harbor without a worry, and
it's better. Hey, it's better.
Less needles. No, but like even if they weren't home, like I had this neighbor who was down the alley from me. He was like one of my best friends growing up. Even if nobody was home, you were still allowed to just chill in that pool, just relax. Like they just didn't care. I always it's a must have for the summer. And then to kind of tie that all together is when you have like the big long weeks or weekends with your friends where you just hang out, have sleepovers, and order pizza and just stay up all night and all that stuff. Instead of a Friday night pizza party, it would be a whole weekend pizza party.
Any week, yeah. My number one thing was I went swimming literally a week ago in the sea. And not only did I love that, I loved that the salt water just made my hair completely wavy and dank and disgusting and awful.
Mermaid hair.
A fun few days. I also spent a lot of time over the summer reading new books, and I built up some better routines this summer. I felt really good about routines after the summer. Nice. I think especially going into the autumn and winter months, I'm ready.
Was there a theme with the books you read, or was it just kind of all over the place?
I'm definitely starting to skew more into a horror theme.
All right.
It was tipped off by they had an archive of creepy comics collected on sale, so I was reading through some of those, and that kind of splintered me into different novels. And then I went back to Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, as previously mentioned. So I'm a little bit there. And before Alan Moore, I went back and read some of the Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, Matt, what about you? What were your 2 and 3 favorite things?
Well, I have video games. They're just a staple, but I feel like a couple good ones came out this summer, which was good. It's better than the last couple years. Been kind of dry spells due to COVID, but
yep,
they're back, it seems like. And then number 3 is grilling.
Big grill man.
I like it. What I do. I usually take an iPad to watch the number one thing, baseball. Slap it on the table, grill and watch baseball.
Sounds really chill.
Not a bad summer.
Sorry, really.
There's usually an alcoholic beverage involved as well.
You gotta. It just it's just comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've got a few more things on the worksheet we'll check back in with throughout the episode. Jumping back to Shin's life, fishing and bug catching, I think, are the main 2 things outside of picking up herbs from the street side or the riverbed. How did you feel about either of those minigames? I kind of like... I feel like when you make one of those activities, it needs to be easy. But also provides somewhat of a challenge, right? Like, it can't just be nothing. It needs to be something involved. I found the fishing minigame actually quite good. I know it's subtle, but in this version of the game, you press A, or whatever, to throw your fishing rod into, not the rod, but the line, into the water where you see a fish's shadow. It will approach the lure, and anywhere between 1 to 3 times will it peck at it and then pull it under, and right when it pulls it under, you hit A. Not unlike the Animal Crossing fishing system, but it is unlike it in a way that if you miss your cue, the fish just kind of hangs out there and it'll come back and bite right again. So you're not really punished for failure.
Right.
And then there's rarer fish. At least this is my experience. More rare fish that you will find. Typically, what I noticed is if I were catching a rare fish, like one of the ones that gives you like a special congratulations stamp or whatever, it would usually have to be done after I'd cleared that area of any other fish. So like there was one point where I saw this big shadow and I was like, I'm going for that dude. And I threw my line in and he just kept swimming right by me. But one by one, the smaller fish would come over, take the bait, I'd catch them, and then eventually the big one would grab that. And bug catching was bound to just, on Switch at least, R. There were other things where you could like pull your net out with L, but if you just hit R, it just swung the net. And I found that was straightforward, easy enough. Any complaints or thoughts on the fishing or bug catching systems?
I mean, that's the main system.
Yeah.
That's it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with them mechanically, just that's the core ones.
Yeah, and as you like run through the world, there's small like sparkles that you'll see shining through the air, and that indicates a bug you've not caught yet. The only problem I had with it was because of the fixed camera perspective in some of the stages, it made it impossible at times to fish or know if there were any fish in the water. And for bug catching, there were certain bugs that like I was swinging in exactly the direction I thought I needed to be swinging in, and I was just not catching the bug whatsoever.
Yeah, like depth perception was a little tough with some of the angles, but I do like I still like that they incorporated these into fixed camera angles. I mean, and then like despite the challenge of the harder to see spots, I like that it was still a thing to happen in this style. And the water, of course, because everything looks, cell shade, whatever, the water looks super pretty and sparkly. And I like that they actually showed the fish in the water that you were catching wasn't just a silhouette of a basic fish symbol like a lot of fishing mechanics do, which I don't have a problem with. But it was just nice to see that, oh, okay, I see that this catfish is about to bite my line. I know I'm getting a catfish. Like,
yeah, there were certain, there were like some specific like shapes that were somewhat generic for like small, but yeah, catfish I remember standing out. A couple of the other like bass, geez. It was like, that's probably a big old boy. And then what's cool is with all the bugs and the fish, when you would catch them, Shin always does this stupid like weird pose where he tucks his legs together and then puts his camera on his head and takes a picture of the fish.
yes.
And then adds it to the little diary, which we've not touched on the diary yet, but one of the major elements of this game is you can do this at any time you want just by opening up the menu, but you can also it's also kind of like your end of the day. So the day runs on a day-night cycle, and I didn't actually do the math, but I think each actual day is close to an hour of real world time.
That sounds right.
Going from daylight all the way to bedtime. And there are ways to make time move a little bit slower. And there's also an energy meter that you need to monitor. So Shin's energy as he moves around will deplete. And if it gets all the way to the bottom, he'll pass out and wake up back at the house where the Nohara family is staying. But you can replenish that with snacks and rice balls and things like that you can buy throughout the world. But either way, at the end of the day, or if you prompt it in the menu, Shin will kind of log what he got into recently and just kind of keep a running log of those things. And then you can also report those to the local newspaper, who will turn them into headlines, and you're helping to gain subscribers as another one of the like daily tasks. But I really liked the way that it organized all of the things that Shin did throughout a day, especially as you were trying to figure out certain elements. Not that this overall, like, this is ultimately like a kid's game in a way, for the most part. I think it's approachable for all ages. I think anyone can appreciate it, but I don't think it does anything too challenging. And again, there's no like fail state. So it's nice to have those reference points, but you almost don't need them to get through the game. You can kind of ignore them and just kind of look through the logbook for fun if you want. But what I did like is every time you log a new like story item, you have the option to choose fastball or curveball.
Yeah.
And the fastball is just sort of like straightforward record of what happened. But the curveball like adds Shin's little dumb flavor text. And I found myself more often than not choosing the little flavor text. Like, there's one spot pretty early on when you are trying to get across this riverbed and you find a bunch of cows standing in the way. So he logs that in the little travel book, and I think the fastball version is like, there were cows blocking the way, can't pass. The curveball is, can't get through, too many cows, what's holding up traffic? And that's like a subtle example of his dumb little whatever. But like, one of them, like, when you first like restart the week, Shin's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be a newspaper reporter, and I'm gonna log all of these things, and I'm gonna help the newspaper grow and whatever. And the one, like, when you kind of log at the curveball is like, the beginning of another week, once I become a super newspaper reporter, then we'll go on a date. And he's like doing a fist bump because he's super excited to date any of the teenage girls in the game. I think all of his like little vocal, like the just little exclamations he'd make throughout the game were always fun. Even the little like phrases he would say, like, I know this is not as adult or humor focused as the Funimation one, but even like, so the first time you experience the day-night cycle, you end up, I don't know if it happened to you guys, but I think I passed out and then woke up back at the house, and then every day kind of ends with a bath time. Shin and Dad and sometimes the younger sister end up taking a bath, and then after the bath, Shin's fully dressed, walks into the little living room or little sitting area where everyone is, and the mom's like, you can't go out by yourself at night, so if you need to go, you have to let me know. And right away, without missing a beat, he's like, I'm letting you know now, let's go. Like, and he's got this little look on his face, like a stupid little, like, smug, like, I
did enjoy the morning routine as it added more and more characters into the background of it.
By the end of the game, you just have every dinosaur that you've encountered, because that's the other part of this game we haven't talked about plot-wise. The creepy professor is teleporting. He has a time machine, and that's why you're stuck in this loop, but he's also teleporting dinosaurs into this world, and you have to help. One of the main story beats is to first, like, help the townspeople not fear the dinosaurs, so you and all the kids get together and lead them through a parade to show that they're friendly, and then eventually you help to send them back. But by the end of the game, you end up with every dinosaur, 15 or 16 different people standing there to do the morning calisthenics. Were there any other things throughout the world that you interacted with that I don't want to hog all of it. I've got a couple more screenshots that I grabbed that I thought were fun, but
I know there was that woman. I never stayed to hear story time, but I know that woman was every night just reading that story, just at her pace too.
Yeah, and like, if you don't hit anything, it'll loop.
Yeah,
it took me a little bit to realize that, and I was like,
yeah, because you don't get like day only ends or nighttime, like those things, when the meters run out, you can kind of let them ride, but as soon as you change screens, that's when it triggers the change of whatever. So Yeah, that was a good one. Was there anything you had, Matt?
I found.
Oh wait, you said that one. Sorry.
Yeah, but I also found the speed running button.
The ass dance button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they called it butt alien in this, but
Yep.
I just can't shake the Funimation ass dance nomenclature on that one.
Yep. Nope. There was 2 buttons for speed running purposes.
Yep. But those did drain your energy faster, so you had to chomp down.
Well,
on
you
some
were
rice
going
balls.
faster. It's like the same thing as hitting the gas pedal in the car. Yeah, it drains gas faster, but you're going faster.
Fair.
Gas pedal.
Fair. Mark, anything stand out on your playthrough?
I mean, I don't want to ignore the turntable.
I looked into the turntable. You want to talk about the little DJ minigame for a sec?
I'm not, like, I saw it, but then, like, I was excited about it, but then I just assumed it was just, like, a soundtrack player, and then I didn't fully go back to it.
You can play it, and you can DJ. Like, you can change records, but every time I went back to it, even if you get more songs to play on it, it's a very basic DJ thing. Like, you're just choosing the speed in which songs overlap one another, and that's it. There's no, like, I didn't find anything to unlock. There was no, I don't even think there was an objective tied to it. I think it was just
there.
I mean, you get a little, like, log in Shin's notebook when you DJ for the first time or whatever, but that was kind of it.
Yeah, I was trying to interact because it definitely gives you, like, that perspective of Shin. Just like, you do something with this, and I couldn't figure it out, and I kind of, like, after a couple days go into it for a few minutes, I kind of fucked off with it until I ultimately never found music, but that's another thing.
I will say it's not even important to, like, or it doesn't feel like it's that important. It's just part of the game that you just kind of gloss over because it's just very video gamey. But, like, the whole, like, chalkboard checklist thing when you collect bugs or fish or food
market
or whatever,
items,
and then you clear it. Like, I put in, like, it's just second nature. Like, I'm just doing it, but at the same time, there's something therapeutic about completing it.
Oh my gosh. I kept doing it. And once you get enough money from doing these, so, like, what Mark's talking about is, like, there's all these little, like, mini things where, like, each kind of member of whoever owns a shop or whatever, they need 10 tomatoes or they need 5 of these herbs from the street side. And every time you turn the amount in, they give you money, and every time you do that, you get a stamp. You take the stamp back to the restaurant, and if you get 5 stamps, you turn in your little errands card, and you get a big payout of usually like 300 yen. And yeah, that whole just checklist, that was fantastic. I kept doing that and running back, getting extra money, buying more of the things, which that is the perfect segue, I think, into one of my favorite elements of the game, the dinosaur fighting, where
they put loot boxes in a game, dude.
The what?
They put loot boxes in a children's adventure game.
Heck yeah, they did, dude. You gotta buy the Chocobi to unlock the booster cards. So
I have a story about that, by the way.
The what?
The buying the Chocobi for the trading cards.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize the card was a separate item after you bought it. So I kept drinking or eating these Chocobi things and wondering where the hell my cards were. I spent probably like $2,000 trying to figure out where cards were.
Yep. I was like, oh, are they just in random boxes? Like, what's happening? And then, I realized way later that I had like 20 of them sitting in my inventory that I opened up. And at that point, I like already cleared like the tournament without needing them. So but the game, it's, if you've played Boku no Natsuyasumi or you've seen it, in those games you have beetle fighting. This is this game's version of that. If you've played a little video game called Pokemon, you might be familiar with the concept of rock, paper, scissors. I mean, essentially every dinosaur, you choose a dinosaur, or eventually you can choose a Gum-Dum robot to fight as. Each of them have 3 attacks, rock, paper, or scissors, that each have a variance in their strength of the attack and then the amount that they charge up your special meter. So usually the heavier or the harder your attack hits, the less it will charge up your special meter. I found the secret hack to this was just throwing scissors, because usually rock was the strongest of the attack, and rarely would someone use rock. So you had a 2/3 shot of typically winning, right? Because you'd throw scissors and you're either going to hit paper and you win the round, or you're going to tie, and there's a tiebreaker minigame, which is just a thing that flies across the bottom of the screen, and you need to stop it on... there's little pictures of crowns and little pictures of skulls. You need to stop it on a crown so that you win. And yeah, I found either most opponents were going to throw scissors or paper just by the odds. So I just kept doing that, and I burned my way through pretty quickly. But that was a neat thing, and that's something that happens, like, as you play through the game and you talk to more people and you do more things, more areas of the map open up. And this was one of those where there's just a little clubhouse underneath this little shack behind the river. And you just slowly realize, like, everything is kind of connected. Everything is, it's all about perspective. Like, you're looking at one thing and you think, like, how am I going to get there? And then when it finally opens up, you realize it was, like, right behind the little path, just to your left this whole time. Which, speaking of which, one of my favorite preventative measures was the sign for the dental clinic. It's kind of like right outside of the main area where you wake up and everything. And you go to walk past it to explore the map, and Shin hates going to the dentist, so he can't go past that sign. Just turns around. It's just like a billboard. There's not actually a dental clinic down there. But just the thought of it makes him shudder and run away.
It's more creative than just having like an invisible wall, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then eventually you get to the point where, you can... Well, it just disappears at a certain point. It doesn't necessarily... He doesn't, like, brave the sign or anything. Overall, I mean, the game is about being on summer vacation. There is a plot to it, and it is more straightforward in that regard. There's a beginning and an end, but there's not a hard, fail state. I want to kind of dive into just final overall thoughts and opinions on this. But before we close that out and get ready to rank Shin-chan, me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, the Endless 7-Day Journey, I would like to know, or I'd like you guys, if you will, to read your fill-in-the-blank prompt from our worksheet. I'll start. I wrote here, the best game I played this summer was Synapse for PlayStation VR 2. I think it would be really cool if PlayStation built a local PlayStation 3 emulator for PS5. I can't wait for fall because I can watch basketball again. Mark, what about you?
The best game I played this summer was Friday the 13th, the game. It's not new, but I still enjoy playing that with friends. And it's just a fun... It actually takes place in the summer.
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool if that franchise can have another game with no legal troubles holding it back. Mm-hmm. Which I think it will. I think just the way things are lining up. And I can't wait for fall because summer sucks and Halloween rules, but also we get an actual Friday the 13th in October.
Good answer. Well-rounded answer. Matt, what are your fill in the blanks?
The best game I played this summer was Final Fantasy 16. I think it would be really cool if Andrew Wilson put cool games out. I can't wait for fall because I pre-ordered the new Halloween Trilogy Collector's Edition from Best Buy.
I love that this this worked. I had this idea a couple months ago to put this thing together, and I was like, let me make a dumb worksheet for us. I guess let's do this one too. Well, I'm gonna save the cloud thing for the very end of the episode, but at the top I had a prompt. Instead of going back to school, I'd rather be blank. Matt, why don't you? Well, instead of going back to school, what would you rather be?
Oh, I wrote this very much like back in the day. I know I would have like written in hanging with friends.
Nice, Mark.
Same. I said I'd rather be playing my Nintendo 64.
I wrote skateboarding, which kind of does the same that both of you did, because I would have hung with friends skateboarding, and I also would have played Tony Hawk on the Nintendo 64. So jot that down. How about the crossword puzzle, or not crossword, the word search? Listeners, if you've not checked out the worksheet, you can got a fun little word search for you with some phrases tying into our September games that we're playing. Did you guys find all of the words in the word search?
I got it.
Nailed it?
I nailed it.
I almost did not, and I made it.
I was going to say, like, what?
I forgot where. The only one I remembered where it was Monster Hunter Now, because, spoilers for anyone at home doing it, I needed to make the puzzle wide enough to fit that into the thing, so that was the first thing I put in. I knew exactly where it was.
Also,
yeah,
we won't reveal it. There's also a bonus word in there if you want to count it.
There is a bonus word, yes, that I forgot to mark in the key down there. So, yeah, overall, this game is exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted us to have a game that had no consequence. I wanted us to have something where we just kind of felt like we could hang out in the summer and have a summer vacation of a game and then come back at the beginning of fall and talk about our summer vacation. And I think this fit exactly that. I did find myself like lost at times in terms of direction, but then I just kind of kept catching bugs and whatever. But to that, I found I couldn't play this for extended periods of time. I'd usually do maybe a day in game or two at most, and then I'd have to shut it down and go play something else for a bit. But overall, this was exactly what I was looking for in a game like this, and I'm glad that we got one in America for once. I know that Millennium Kitchen is working on, or just released Natsuyasumi 20th Century Summer Vacation for Switch, which is a different sort of spiritual successor to Boku no Natsuyasumi. But I don't think that one has made its way over here quite yet. Yeah, what are your kind of lasting, lingering thoughts on this one? Mark, why don't you go first?
I mean, like you said, it's a pretty straightforward game. I like its approachability. I think it is a very simple game, but I don't mean that as a detriment in any way. It is such a dumb thing to say, I guess, but it is very Japan. Obviously. I don't mean just because of its setting, but like just the way that the game is handled. Where like everything has an unnecessary over like explanation to it, but it's charming in this sense. Like it fits more with this style of game. Like the whole camera, like they explained the camera just for the sake of when you look at your pictures, they're just drawings instead of actual photographs from the game. It's like you didn't have to explain it, but I like that there's lore to it. You know, like for like it's pointless lore, but you can appreciate it just because of the context of the game and its setting. So just stuff like that I've just noticed, and I know I'm used to it by now, but like I think the only thing that kind of stood out to me was because I played on PC. I guess I could just have it running in the background if I really wanted to, but you have to wait till nighttime to save it. So you have to like play for a whole day just to save your progress. Unless you're playing on a Switch or something where you might be able to just hit the sleep button and then come back to it. I think you're probably more beneficial playing on a console that can support that if you just want to like drop in, drop out, and not have to worry about repeating a lot of the same stuff if you hop back into it. If you had to stop midday or something.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a setback either, because you can just skip a lot of dialogue, and the map is small. You can travel around pretty quickly to get where you want to go. But that's just a thing I noticed. It's not like doesn't break the game for me or anything.
No, but it's a good point. There were definitely times where I wanted to do a bit more than a day, but I didn't want to do 2 days, and having to I was like, well, I guess I'm not playing anything on my Switch until I'm ready to come back to this.
Yeah, it's nice to have a game where it's not centered around violence and gore. It's just like a nice, chill thing. I love its presentation. I love its visuals. I think it truly captured the summer vibe. I think they did a good job. They hit their target.
Matt, how about you? Where do you fall on Shin-chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, the endless 7-day journey?
This is gonna be one of those games where I know it is a better game than my review says. It's just there's two things here that just went against it for me. One, I think I've said it. I think there's other games like this, like more casual at your own pace. There's not like a fail state. Not necessarily. There's a little bit of challenge, I guess, but not necessarily challenging your mechanics and your skill set. And there's not like a learning curve to it. This is one of those games where you're just not my typical vibe. And then two, there's probably a lot of references, and I've made a note of it too. Like I just felt like within like the first 2 days, there were just a bunch of references that I just wasn't getting, not knowing the Shin-chan property at all. I still chuckled. There were still things to laugh and enjoy. Like it wasn't like I totally missed everything, but like when Shin-chan kept doing something, it was very much like I was like, it's probably something he's doing on the show. It's just some of this is going over my head. I had to look up what the alien butt or the whatever they called it in this game, like what the context of that was. I didn't know that was like a mechanic that I needed to know, or just like a dumb button they threw in. Stuff like that. Again, much better than my score and review will claim come out to be, but this one just wasn't my vibe, and I found it very hard. Once I was in it, I was fine, but I found it very hard to get the motivation to launch the app again.
Yeah, I had that as well. Like until I got to a point when it seemed like things were happening. Like I was actually getting, because when it was like a couple days in a row where the only thing that happened was I caught a couple of bugs and whatever. Like until I realized talk to everybody twice a day, that's the thing that like you need to do. Then I started seeing like more of the objectives pop, and my diary filling up, and me being able to go talk to the newspaper and fill those things out. Because otherwise it was very like same thing. I was like, I'd rather keep playing Pikmin 4 or Sekiro, now that I can say those words out loud, because I've been right. We're playing that in a couple of weeks, and like I'm wrapping that up. And when it was a toss up between like, do I want to go try my hand at whatever Ashina Castle again, or go catch bugs? Like I was definitely itching more for Ashina. So, but yeah, I think this is great. I think if you have always wanted to play one of the My Summer Vacation games and they've been inapproachable, I think this is a very approachable way to play one of those. Outside of the English translation, which I've not tried yet, but I think that's also a way to do it. There's also the action button review of Boku no Natsuyasumi, which is quite informative and good, and I think that lets you experience the game in its own way. Be sure to check out the website, thefreecheese.com. for our full written reviews and scores, etc. And you can also head over to thefreecheese.com/thelist, where we are going to rank Shin-chan, Me and the Professor's summer vacation. Did I screw it up? Me and the Professor on summer vacation, the endless 7-day journey. Of course, we're ranking that against everything else we've ranked since the start of season 10.
You all take the lead on this one.
I got a number.
Is it
Let's
the
hear it.
highlighted one?
It's probably my highlighted one. Yeah, I think right below Bomberman 93, right above Windjammers 2 for me. The new 39. Oh, that does put it above Snatcher.
I was going to say, so that was going to be my comment there. Like, those are actually similar games, and I prefer Snatcher.
Do we like this over Parodius, though? Like, could it be the new 41? Mark?
I'm thinking. I like it. I do like it more than Parodius in terms of difficulty.
Yeah.
But I like Amplitude more.
One of those. Quite a few of those on the list.
Yeah, I mean that's just it's bound to happen. But yeah, I mean I'm kind of fine anywhere in that area. I'm not hard pressed because I was gonna like my original thought was between Toe Jam and Amplitude.
And I feel like I like
But we can put it
Toe Jam
above.
over it. Maybe not. No, I like this over Toe Jam. I do. I could.
I think Toe Jam, there's a couple games going down from Toe Jam, but I think this is around the area that I will start to slot it. Like, I like it better than Toe Jam, I think, in a way.
Do you like it better than Amplitude?
No. But
All right,
again...
then there it is.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, no. What's that, new 43?
The new 43. This is gonna... Usually I like mute the keyboard as I type, but I'm gonna make this nice and audible. Shin-chan, me and the Professor on vacation. We're already out of room in our little box. Oh no, it double spaced the thing.
Oh, did you just break this?
The endless 7-day journey. Episode 521. Good night.
Oh, this table's ruined. This is
No,
all
I'm
fun and dandy.
Hang tight, I'm fixing it. Turn off word wrap. There you go.
Still weird, but better, I guess.
Yeah. Congratulations, Shin-chan, me and the Professor on summer vacation. The endless 7-day journey. Our new 43. Come back next week. Talk about Zuma Deluxe with us. Another vacation, in a way, in its own way, I'd say. We'll see you next week for 522. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening.